Hello everybody! Today I'm going to cut lots of soap. So if you were with me yesterday, I made 3 batches of soap yesterday in 3 different live videos, so I'm going to cut those. And those ones are all the way over there. But I also have a bunch of other soap that I have to get caught up on too. So I'm having a nice big soap cutting day right now. And I'm going to get started on that in just a second as I pull up the chat over here so I can see what you're saying if you're here. Okay. Okay. All right, so now I have that pulled up, so in case anyone says something, I'll be able to see what you said. All right, the first soap that I'm going to cut today is going to be, hang on, I'm getting some of my soap cutters actually out of the way because I have them all out today. But the first soap that I'm going to cut today is going to be this rebatch soap. So you'll see in a little while that I get some shavings and scraps and things like that when I'm cutting my soaps, and the extras go into, oops, I broke that one, I need another one. The extras go into the bucket over there, and they get melted down when the bucket's full, and they get turned into a brand new loaf of soap. And I sell those on my website. They're called rebatch soaps, and then it says in all capital letters that you can get one free if you use the coupon code free soap, which is also in all caps. And it is subject to shipping charges, but if your order total is at least $20, then you get free shipping. And this I made a few days ago, so I'm kind of gonna try to judge and see. I'm gonna cut it with a blade because since it's been, there it is. Since it's a couple of days old, I don't want to bust any of my wires, so I'm gonna blade cut this one. Okay, so if people forget to use the coupon code free soap, I send you an extra one, so that way you always get one free as long as you added it to your cart. But if you use the coupon code free soap, it will take off the price of one soap. So if you buy one, it's one price, but then I have tiered discounts so that if you buy more than one, the price goes down, or you'll see the quantity thresholds if you go to it. So cut these at about 1 inch. And the weight on these varies. I promise at least 3 ounces on these, but usually you get a lot more. So just for an example, we'll see what we get on this one. Oh, that one actually came out to be pretty small, 3.55. So I'll cut them a little bit wider. Maybe like closer to 1.25 inches on the other ones. So that one came out to 5.2, and they may go down a little bit, but I make sure that they're at least 3 ounces, and sometimes they're really huge too, and sometimes, like I think I had one go out that was 9 ounces before, so they vary, but you know, I promise a minimum on that. And this one looks like it got cut a little bit thicker too, so that one's going to be pretty big. And they're not a consistent product, because the soaps that I make all vary and change. So if you order a bunch of them, I try to send a variety because they could be all different scents and have different looks. Let's see. Alright, I'm just gonna put this little thin cut right back in the bucket, and it'll go into the next batch. So there I have these somewhat random chunks of soap. So I'm going to get these and put them on the shelf over here, or on the curing rack. I have the Essential Depot green ones that I stack up. So I know that the older stuff is on the bottom and the newer stuff is on the top. And that way I know in which order to get rid of it. Okay, and let's get rid of this. actually. I have a box over here I'm just tossing all my molds into so I can wash them when I'm done. And the next soap that I want to clear out of here is the vanilla soap that I made a couple of days ago. This one's not getting cut, but I have to package it because it's going out like as is. So normally I would put these extras in the bargain bin, but this is kind of small, so I'm just gonna toss it in the rebatch bucket. So that will contribute to the next rebatch loaf that goes out. Okay, being that this is the vanilla soap that I made before, you can see how dark it got. I love how the vanilla just smells like chocolate. It's really nice. Nice and sweet. This paper's not big enough that way. So when that happens, I go on a diagonal. Now it's big enough. Alright, so this one's just a couple of days old, so it's going to go out with custom curing instructions because it's a whole loaf. It's not getting cut and not getting cured here. So this one is vanilla, and this is from the Gentle Soap base recipe. So I'm going to block out essential oil, and it has shea butter, so I'm going to block out cocoa butter and mango butter, and they didn't have any extra ingredients added. So that's how I label those when they have custom ingredients that can change different. I have the base ingredients that are the same, and then I can alter that a little bit. So I'm not going to pack up the whole order. I'm just going to set this aside so I can get it later. Oh yeah, and I want to put the batch number, which is 269. Just in case I need that later. Okay, so what's next now? Okay, next I have, these are the individual molds, so I can probably get these, see if they're ready anyway. Sometimes these need a little bit extra time, so if they do, then we'll wait, but they might be ready. I think they probably need extra time, so I'm not going to do those today. I'll just set them aside. And then I guess I should do the unscented ones first, but you guys probably want to see the ones I made yesterday because you didn't see me do the other ones. So let me show you. That's what I have left over here. So I will use this cutter because these are going to be 1-inch bars. And I'll start with, let's start with the swirl that we did yesterday. The lemongrass and lime that was hopefully going to come out with a swirl. It looked like the colors were different yesterday, and this is what it looks like today. So you can't really see it, but when we cut it, maybe we'll see it a little better. And since it was starting to get really thick, I'm going to be planing these first. And today is Sunday. In the state of Indiana, you cannot buy alcohol on Sunday. I don't know if any of you knew that, but it's against the law. So that is something about Indiana. So I don't like wine because it gives me headaches. And I'm not a big drinker, but sometimes I like to have one drink. So it starts to change the way you think when you live in a state like Indiana, because you start doing your alcohol inventory on Saturday. So that's kind of funny about living here. Dry on Sunday. Someone was telling me that this originated because they wanted workers to be sober on Monday morning, and I just can't understand for the life of me why you wouldn't just hire someone that shows up to work Monday morning sober. And if they didn't show up to work on Monday morning sober, then they probably wouldn't have a job for that long. But no, instead they have to have a law that you can't buy alcohol on Sunday. So it is what it is. Okay. So now that I've planed it, it looks like that. Let's see if you can see it. There we go. That's probably a little better. Okay, I'm going to line this up. And we'll see if we get a swirl. Ah, there is a little bit of a swirl in there, so that's good. Oh, you know what I need first? A tray. I'm running out of space to do all of this stuff. That's why I should have did the unscented ones first, because I don't have to do a lot of cutting on those, because a lot of them are not going to get cut. Come on, you can kind of fit in there. It's a little wonky, but let's go like that. And then I do the bottom because the soap cutter drags up a bunch of soap like that. So I do the bottoms after I cut them. And these have a pretty cool, almost like antique looking swirl. I need my bucket back though. Alright, next one, same soap. This one's being a little bit more stubborn, unmolding. Okay, ready for this one. I'm gonna plane this one. So this is the room I cut in. This is also the room I cure in, and I store a lot of, but not all of my supplies in here too. behind the camera view where you can't see it is a shelf full of stuff and a pallet full of stuff and curing racks full of mostly soap. There's some lotion and bath bombs too, but mostly soap. Let's see, I'm going to give it one more plane because I'm trying to get rid of all the ash. That's better. Cutting is fun when you have swirls. When you don't have swirls, maybe it feels more like work. But my goal today is to get all of this soap out of the molds. Then I'm going to have to go wash all the molds. And then I have a lot of reading that I'm going to get done. This one looks cool. While the swirl doesn't have what I would say a lot of contrast because of the all natural ingredients, it has like a cool effect. Like, I would say similar to Glycerin Rivers, but it's not really glycerin rivers, and maybe it's because of the honey or something, but it almost has that like antiqued looking, like antique paper or something. This one actually has a bit of a like swirl line over there. So this was the one, it was like try to get a swirl if possible with sea kelp and sea clay. Yeah, so some of these came out with a swirl. It's swirled to varying degrees. So that's cool. And the last loaf of lemongrass lime I'm going to cut now. Sometimes these are a little stickier to get out of the molds. It's coming. There it goes. But this one has a lot. By the time, I think this was the third one, so by the time I poured it, it was starting to get really thick. So I have to plane that even. So the weather around here, it was starting to get kind of cool, but now summer has come back for a last hurrah, and it feels pretty warm today. So there's the last one. Last one of these. They look pretty cool. I like how they came out. tool to get the soap off of this. And the next one, let's see, should we do the lavender or should we do the rosemary eucalyptus? Eeny, meeny, miny, moe. I'll do the rosemary eucalyptus next. There they are. So that's what they look like today. So this was the first one I made yesterday. Probably should have cut it first, huh? Because I made it first. And it has eucalyptus leaves. And it has holy basil. And it has eucalyptus oil and it has rosemary oil. And if you want to know more about it, I guess you can look at the making video for this one. But it has to get cut into bars. It smells really nice. Someone made a comment yesterday about how, you know, they didn't like scratchy soap, exfoliating soap, but some people really like it. So I guess I can understand where they're coming from. Sometimes I prefer like a nice smooth soap, but sometimes I really like an exfoliating soap, and I especially like one at the kitchen sink because it helps for hand washing. I think I like it for that. The one thing though about when you're cutting it is sometimes you get like lines because it kind of drags, but that's just the nature of it. There's not much that can be done about that. So if you get coarse ingredients in there, sometimes you get a little bit of lines. This one doesn't really have the lines, but some of them you might find have the lines in them. Ah, like here's a little bit at the bottom. Sometimes that happens. So that's what they look like. They just have like an herbal embed look. Just the eucalyptus and holy basil. They're also, I would say, what color? Maybe a little bit green from the holy basil. I'm going to put these on the same tray because they're going to the same customer. But these have to be cured first because this customer wants them packaged and labeled. So these are going to cure here, as opposed to the last one is going out with just after just a couple of days. Just, you know, after it neutralizes. So in that case, it's always better to use the soap after the full cure because it will last longer, but it's safe to use after a few days after it's neutralized. So I recommend a full cure. But it's not like you have to, it's not like you have to. If it's like about a week old or so, then you could actually use it then. Okay, this is going to be the last one of this type. And when I switch to unscented, I am going to use different cutters. But I'm going to leave the unscented ones, 5 of them I'm going to leave uncut, because I sell some of those loaves whole, like a whole loaf, where I keep those loaves inventory. It's not a custom loaf, I just, you know, sell them as by the loaf. And then usually if they don't sell within a few weeks, then I go ahead and cut them, because I don't want them to be too hard for the customer to cut at home. So I have one loaf that I have in stock. Maybe I should actually cut that one instead and then leave 6 of these uncut. Maybe that's a better idea. But I have a deal where you can buy 1, 2, I forget the other options. It's based on what fits in a shipping box, but the biggest option is 6 loaves. So I like to keep 6 in stock, where I'll do that. But if I don't have them in stock, I have to make them to order, so it's good to have them in stock. But still fresh. So that's kind of how I deal with that issue. I keep some in stock, and then if it goes too long, I cut them and put new ones in stock. Because the bars will sell, and the loaves, well, the loaves sell too, but the bars sell faster than the loaves. Okay, that's these guys. So I have, this is 271 was, oh, that's this one. Okay, that's 271. And what did I do with the other paper? It's 273. I'll just write it. Okay, this one's 273 and this one's 271. It's the batch number. Okay, I'm going to put these on the shelf. And then get a new shelf. Or get a new tray for the lavender. We have a commenter that says, I need a cutter like that. This cutter is the long loaf cutter from Essential Depot. So that is where you can find it. You'll see me use other cutters later if you're still here. So, oops, the wrong way. So that's this cutter. It's called the long loaf cutter because you can have a loaf sticking out as opposed to this one where you can't. So they have a short loaf cutter and they have a long loaf cutter. And this one also has a bunch of embedded herbs. This one has lavender flowers or lavender buds. I think the option on this site is called lavender buds, but lavender flowers is the same thing. Come on out. Okay, so this is what it looks like before it gets planed. It has some ash and some gobbledygook and all that stuff, so. And now it is super smooth. Except the lines. Super smooth except for the lines, which I talked about earlier. Sometimes you get lines when you have embeds. So this one is the same. So the buyer on this, they wanted all of their soaps to look different. And the one that had a swirl is part of the order too. So this is the rosemary eucalyptus. And this one is the lavender. So they kind of have a similar look, but the color is slightly different. This one's more green. So I don't know how well you can tell that, but they kind of look similar too. But they don't smell similar. So in the comments, she says she recently started making soaps and she's still practicing. Lovely soaps. Thank you very much for your nice comments and for hanging out with me today while I cut soap, which is sometimes fun and sometimes boring, but nonetheless, it must be done. And then I have another question. How long have I been making soap? That's a good question because I don't know the exact answer, but I can kind of guess. Because I didn't start... I have a set of twins. They're 10 years old. And before that, I had a regular job. A regular boring job. But after I had twins, I realized that there was no way I could pay daycare for 2 infants and go work a job. It just would not have been worth it. So I decided to start, and those twins are 10 years old now. They're going to be 11 next month. My goodness. So shortly after that, I started making candles. And at the time, I lived in Arizona, and I don't know if you know much about Arizona, but I lived in Yuma, Arizona, and it's hot, and candles is just not a good idea because no matter what you do, your candles are just going to melt. So I quickly scratched that idea, and I moved on to soap. So at some point around that time, oh, and I have something else I can show you. Hold on. Let me take this glove off for a second. I can get it. Because I just got this the other day in the mail, which was a surprise to me because I wasn't expecting this, but I just got this in the mail in recognition of my 5 years continuous membership to the Handcrafted Soap and Cosmetic Guild. So that's cool. My 5 years was in February though, and I just got this a couple of days ago. So I'm thinking that this is a new thing, that maybe these plaques are new. But I got this in the mail, so that's cool. So I've been with the Soap Guild for 5 years, and that probably coincides with maybe when I kind of switched from hobby to business or something like that. I don't know. It's 2017 now. I know I was selling soap in 2011 because of the farmers markets. So I don't know. I guess I've been selling soap a little bit longer than I've been with the Soap Guild, but I've been making it for longer than I've been selling it. So it's I can't answer the question exactly, but you know, something like that. So here we go. Put it back on the wall. I'm gonna get a new glove too because that one has a lot of soap and stuff, and I can't get it back on. Yeah, the Guild Award and the Dean's List all in 1 week. But my 5 years with the Soap Guild is actually in February. I think it's February 13th, like the day before Valentine's Day is when my yearly membership gets renewed or needs to be renewed, and I get my insurance through them because it's kind of like a cooperative, so everyone gets good insurance rates. It's cheaper with them than it would be for me without it, so I get my business liability insurance through them. So if you need that, like if you're selling soap, you really should have it, especially if you're a sole proprietorship, because otherwise you have some liability concerns, and you really need to have that. I haven't had any problems, you know, knock on wood, but some people can be very litigious or, you know, threatening. I'll give you an example. One time I was threatened with a suit because I had a soap that I made that had a razor blade embedded in it, and I made this specifically because I watched a Soap Queen video where she says specifically not to do this. And I didn't make it to sell. I thought you probably shouldn't sell a product like this, but it was more like just for fun, and I used the picture of the soap to put on my business Facebook page that had something along the lines of, do you know what's in your soap? As an idea to, are you aware of the ingredients in your soap? And then lo and behold, there is a seller who actually sells this product, who actually sells soap with razor blades embedded in it. And I guess it's supposed to be like for a gag or whatever. And she threatened to sue me because of my picture, even though I wasn't selling it. And I don't even know if you could or would, or if it would be worth it. I don't think that most people realize that a lawsuit is going to cost you like a minimum of $5,000 just for legal fees and court costs and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know. But she asked for my address, and I told her that she could get my address if she purchased one of my products because it was on the label. And then I never heard from her again after that. So yeah, I don't know. It's easy to make enemies. I'll tell you, you know, you just try to do your thing and you can't please everyone. So it's just one good reason why you should definitely have insurance, so that, you know, liability insurance, because I guess that would have been a case in which I was accused of stealing an idea, and I guess the burden would be on her to prove that she had intellectual rights to it, and so on and so forth. Blah, 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 blah. But yeah, you just definitely want to have insurance. And the Soap Guild will give you good rates if you're in the United States, and I believe they do Canada as well. And I don't know about other countries. I know that there's a lot of international members, but I can't tell you if they have coverage for everyone else. But I'm glad to have it because it takes a little bit of concern away from liability issues. Of course, if you're going to sell, you could also organize as an LLC, and in that way you have a little bit more limited liability, but, you know, people can still sue you. If it's an LLC, you can still get sued, so it's still a good idea to have the insurance. But especially if you're a sole proprietor, you want to have it, because in that case, you are viewed as the same, like you're personally liable. So if you get sued, they can go after your personal assets. But if you have an LLC, maybe no. And I say maybe no because it gets complicated. So you just want to look into all that stuff once you start selling soap. Or selling anything, really. Selling anything, any business. You need to know that. You should probably have liability insurance for any business. But especially if you're a sole proprietorship, which is the most common type of business that there is in the United States. Most common business structure, because it's easy to get started and you don't have to file articles of incorporation or articles of partnership, or you get to be your own boss. Service industries a lot of times file this way. Alright, let's move this one out of here, and let's move this out of here. And I need another tray. I really need to get another soap planer because I'm going to have to wash this before I do the unscented soap. Okay, so she says she's in Africa, so yeah, I don't know the laws there, but I have to know them here. Sorry for it's gonna get boring for just a second, but I have to wash this and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. I promise that wouldn't take long, so sorry for that. I just didn't want to use this on an unscented soap after having just used it on a scented soap. So I should probably get another one, which would be great, because then I would have two to use. But for now, I only have one. And usually I don't have quite this much soap to cut on one day that's different scents. Usually I'm cutting just the same thing. Okay, so let's get some new gloves. Okay, so like I was saying before, I sell these soaps, some of them as loaves, and then I have these extra butterflies. This was the batch extra, and I tested out a fragrance and a color, actually two colors, the yellow and and a blue to get like this olive sort of green. So these are going to go off of this tray and onto the bargain bin portion over here, where they'll be sold in grab bags of 1 pound size. And I'm going to cut this soap and return it to this tray. Because this one, let's see when it was made. This one was made about 2 weeks ago, so it's about time to cut this one. And now I'm using the short loaf cutter. So this one, I actually broke a string and I have not gotten a replacement string for it yet, so it still has, it's missing one. But for these shorter loaves that I have, I don't need every string, so I'm okay. So I'm going to cut this one, and even though it's like 2 weeks old, I can still cut that. But I don't really want to let it get that much older because then it will be too hard to cut. So and you can see how much it cured because it has like the inner area. So now it's going to cure the rest of the way and be sold as bars. And now these ones, I'm going to leave 6 of them as whole loaves, and then I'm going to cut the rest into minis, which are 1 ounce bars, which is kind of new. I'm just starting with minis, but it's going to be a new size, and you're not going to find it except for in the custom loaves, but in the future, you'll be able to buy a 1 ounce bar of a soap, so that way you can kind of see if you like it. So I'm just only planing the top ash part. Let's see, I'm going to put my batch record in there. Sometimes I just write the number, sometimes I just fold up the paper and I leave it on the tray and off to the side. So I want at least 6 of these available to sell for about 2 weeks or so before they get cut into bars, because if someone buys a loaf, or if someone buys 6 loaves, then I'll have them ready. If not, I would have to make them to order, which is fine. I make a lot of stuff to order, but it's also good to have some of these taken care of, especially because this is a goat milk soap and I have to have fresh goat milk on hand, and that's kind of like another thing to work through because the availability of goat milk can sometimes be challenging. So sometimes I'm able to get a lot more goat milk, and sometimes I have to go to the store, or sometimes they don't have it or whatever. So the reason why, because I have actually 4 trays of this soap already made, and the only reason I made this one is because I had to use the fresh goat milk before it went bad. I didn't want to waste it, so I had to make extra. But it's one of my better selling soaps, so I'm not worried about that. It's better to have more than not enough, because eventually it will sell. Okay, how long do I wait after unmolding until I cut? I usually, usually after I make the soap, I unmold it either the next day, or sometimes it'll be 2 days, and sometimes it'll even be 3 days, but I try to do it the next day if it's possible. These soaps were not made yesterday though. These soaps were made on the 14th. So what's today? The 17th. These soaps were actually made 3 days ago. I've been too busy with, like last week I had a 10-page paper and like a smaller one, like a 1-page paper and an exam, and this week I have my first like exam week where it's gonna be like 3 more exams, so I've just been like super busy with that, and I didn't unmold them and I didn't get to cutting them or whatever, so these are 3 days old, but they're not for a specific order, so I guess I had a little bit of time to play with. So I'm getting caught up today, basically. Because I have full-time school, this is my work, and I have 4 children from 10 to 2. 2 of them are 10. So I usually stay pretty busy. And then of course a husband too. Have to make food because he is not very good at making food. With the exception of 2 things that my husband is very good at making. And one of them would be salsa, and the other one would be sushi. So those are 2 things he can make. Oh, actually he can make 3 things. He can make dumplings, but he can't make anything else. So I have to make all the other food. So I have to cook for 6 people, which doesn't seem like a big deal, but just, it's so time consuming. But now that the 10-year-olds are getting a little older, sometimes I can just have them make sandwiches or something if I'm a little bit lazy, and you know, so that's good every once in a while, but not every day. Of course, they love that. In the comments it says, you're lucky they didn't go too hard. And it's true, but if I leave them in the mold, they don't harden as fast as compared to when I take them out of the mold. So I just leave them in the mold, and then they're usually okay for a little bit longer. And then he says he can make babies, at least half, LOL. Yeah. Oh, a different commenter says that. So yeah. Whew. Yep, I guess we can make babies. It's funny because we planned on 1 child, and right off the bat we got twins. So, and then the other ones kind of came along as well. Okay, so that's 5. Now, this is number 6. And I'm going to put this cutter away because I don't need it anymore. And I'm going to use this cutter plus, where did it go? Here it is. This cutter in combination to make the minis. And I'll show you how I do that. So this is a 1/2-inch cutter. Oh yeah, he can grill. No, he can grill. So yeah, the commenter said, what about grilling? Grilling? Question mark? A man who can't grill? So yeah, he can make another food and he can grill, and he's actually takes a lot of pride in the grilled food. So a lot of times when I want to like not have to cook and it's nice out, I'll maybe ask or make a comment about, we have this or that can be grilled, and try to get myself out of having to cook dinner. But it doesn't work in the winter though, because we have really cold winters here, unfortunately. I do not like Midwest winters at all. It's like 9 months of the year is just beautiful and gorgeous and everything's nice and you just feel like, it's not so bad, life is great. And then winter comes and it's like December's great because everyone's happy and there's bright lights everywhere and everyone has holiday spirit. And it's not even really that cold yet in December for some reason. But then January comes and it's like everything's gray. All you see is like snow drifting on the roads. The snow starts to pile up. The snow starts to turn black and gray. When it piles up, you can't really go anywhere. You can't really do anything. It's like -15 sometimes, Fahrenheit. I don't know what that is Celsius off the top of my head, but it's like less than 0. So I know 0. Okay, so 32 Fahrenheit equals 0 Celsius. So if it's -15, then who knows what it is Celsius. I don't know off the top of my head, but it's really cold. It's usually not quite that cold, but it can get that cold. It's like so cold that if you spit, it will just hit the ground and roll away. That's how cold it gets here. Oh man, this soup is really hard. I hope I don't bust any strings. But if I do, I have extras. This is a guitar string cutter. This is a bud cutter made by Bud Hafner from Bud's Wood Shop. If you want to contact Bud, bhafner@suddenlink.net. So we have a comment, I'm in England, I like the cold. We have a comment, LOL, about the spinning. So yeah, but it's true. It's funny because it's true. Okay, so now you can see that I cut these. These are 2 ounce bars. So that's going to be something like 58 gram. And then I'm going to come over here to this cutter. Is it 58 or 56? Maybe it's 56. I don't know. I'm ballpark close. I realize I have a lot of international watchers. So in the Midwest, right now I'm in the state of Indiana. So that's where I'm currently located. I've moved around a lot, but this is where I am right now. So it should already be lined up, but because this is an adjustable cutter, I like to just measure first and be sure. Yep, okay. So I only have to do that once. I just like to make sure in case, for whatever reason, since the last time I used it, it's moved, and now I have mini 1 ounce bars. So that's what they look like. Little minis. Yeah, so I used to live in an extremely hot climate. Now I live in a climate that gets extremely cold in winter. Now, we're going to have to check it again, because actually one side looks just a tiny bit bigger than the other. So on this one, I'm going to give it one more check. I'm going to measure it and check it out. I put the string right there, and then let's see. All right, I made an adjustment, and I'm gonna check again. It's so hard to see, like, from this angle that what looks right is not always right. So I'm kind of marking it with my finger. Yeah, now it's too big on this side. So I need, like, just a tiny bit. And this didn't come, the multi-cutter can go up to 2 inches. It doesn't come with like a ruler right here, but I added one on. So I made little engravings and inked them, but the ink kind of wore off after washing it. But I'm measuring it. Let's see, that's probably better, because maybe I was just off a little bit. Yeah, that looks a lot better. Okay, yeah, so the place where I live now, they grow a lot of corn. So I live in a kind of rural area, so basically at this time of year, it's just corn everywhere, just lots and lots of corn. Corn, 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 corn. So, yeah. It's also mostly flat. There's not very many hills, like compared to when I lived in Washington State. Just hills everywhere. And in California, hills, 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 hills. Here it's flat, 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 flat. Every once in a while you find a hill, but it's mostly flat. Those I'm going to sell them. The question in the question in the chat is, am I going to use those for samples or sell them? And I'm going to actually sell them as 1 ounce bars. I also offer a custom loaf where you can get it cut into either, you can get it uncut like this, or you can get it cut into 8 1 ounce bar, or 8 4 ounce bars, like typical 1 inch size, or you can get it cut into 16 2 ounce bars, which is what it looks like before I do this step, or you can get it cut into 32 minis. So those are the minis that I'm doing now. Now for samples, I'm going to use the extra from the soap, and I will make some samples. And I send out samples with orders so long as I have them. I don't always have them, but if I have them. But I offer the rebatch soaps are free, so anyone can get a free bar of soap with their order if they want that one. So there's always that. I try to give samples when I have them. I usually have some kind of sample, but if I don't have a sample, I've been known to throw in some other goodies instead. Okay, so here is, this one's gonna turn into minis too. Do I still run a lot is another question. Yes, I do. I actually, when I have a 2-year-old right now, a 2-year-old boy. All the other ones are girls, but I have a boy now. And with that pregnancy, I had complications, so I couldn't do any exercising. So I'm not like at marathon distances right now or anything, but I can run about 10 miles right now. But usually, I would say like my average run is like 2 or 3, and I do a lot of walking as well. So I still enjoy running, but I'm not going crazy with it. I'm not doing marathons. What happened here? Oh, I thought I broke a string, but I didn't. Yay! Okay. Did I close one eye? When, I don't know when. When I was messing with this. When I was messing with this cutter, I might have. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I subliminally closed one eye. I don't know. Possible. My left eye is my dominant eye, so that's also, well, that's usually the one that you would see from this angle. So I don't know. I'm not sure. Yeah, so the fact that I do like to run has made a big difference in, like, I can't get hills anymore. Like, there's no hills around here, and I really like running hills. So that's just, you don't really get it here. But my treadmill has 10% incline. I can go up to 10% on it. So sometimes I use my treadmill and do some hills there. It's also good for if the weather's not nice. But yeah, I like to run. We have a nice running trail here. It's really nice. Except that we have a streaker, or not a streaker, a flasher. The police have said that there is a flasher on the trail. Be careful. So no matter where you are, there's always going to be a weirdo, right? But I have never had that problem, but that's what they say. Apparently there was an elderly woman that got flashed. I don't know. I think if I got flashed, I'd probably just laugh, but I can understand that that would be really offensive to some people. So now, unfortunately, they have the police driving down the trail, and it can be quite inconvenient, especially in the evening because it's so bright, it's going to blind you. But I guess they're just trying to keep everyone safe. And also sometimes when you're running by those cornfields, you can smell that there's a little something other than corn coming out of there. I think the kids are in there with the funny grass. I don't know what's going on, but sometimes, you know, there are shenanigans on the trail. You got to be careful. So let's see, I'm going to plane this one first. Okay, so this one is going to be samples. I'm going to cut them with this. And that's it. This is going to be a sample size. So the samples might be just a little bit bigger than the minis. But, you know, you don't get to choose your samples. They're kind of random. So that's it. I got through all of the cutting that I wanted to do. So now, but you know, I said some of those things, and really I live in such a nice town, so there's usually no problems. Usually no problems, but you know, you still have to be careful no matter where you are, because even if 99% of the people are just great, and there's always that 1%, that element of chaos, you're going to get it anywhere, city, country. So you just got to pay attention. So, yep, so I'm still running. All right, so I got all that soap cut. Now I have to end the video and go and clean it all up. So there's the soaps. What do I do with the little bucket of scraps is another question that came in. So the bucket of scraps is going to be melted down using a crock pot. I have another video on this. If you check my videos, you'll see one that's titled something like how I melt my soap scraps or into rebatch soap. And I can show you some examples of what it looks like. So I melt it down, And if I'm actually making soap on that day too, I'll pour instead of pouring batch extras into like a single one, I'll just add it in directly. But then I melt them down into a hot process type of soap. So here's one. And earlier in the video, I cut these ones. You can see a little bit of green in there from a soap that had green coloring. And here's like another one. And I have a big tray full of them over here. So here's another one. So lots and lots of those. And here's a shorter one, but it's a thicker cut, so it will still get the minimum size. That one smells like vanilla, so must have a lot of vanilla in it. Okay, and then those, the ingredients vary, and I sell them, and I also give away one free if they use the coupon code FREESOAP, which is in all caps. Does it ever get muddy? I'm not really sure what you mean by that. It looks like a hot process soap, so it's like more of a rustic texture, but it's still good soap. In fact, a lot of people really like that type of soap. It comes out really bubbly, and it comes out like, you know, really moisturizing and everything. So hot process soaps are great too, but I find them limiting in batch size, whereas a cold process soap, I can increase my batch size, and I'm only limited by the number of molds I have. And if you were wondering, I have 32 of these and 4 of these, I think. And then I also have a bunch of the longer ones, the ones from Essential Depot that fit in the little racks. I have a bunch of those. And I have a bunch of the cylindrical ones too. So I have tons of molds now. So with cold process, I'm only limited to the size of my molds, but for hot process, I'm limited by the size of my pot. So I could make a bunch of batches of cold process soap in a day, and I don't have to stop until I run out of molds, because then they have to sit for a day. But in hot process, I am very limited by the size of my batch. So that's why I tend to not make hot process, but I do the rebatch soap, which looks like a hot process soap. So that's it for today then. Yep, have to find a way to reuse it. We don't want, yeah, you could use a turkey cooker, which is basically like a large crock pot. The only thing is, the other thing, I guess, because this also happens to me with liquid soaps, and I do make liquid soaps, but I don't sell them for this reason, because I don't want to have to make them all the time. But I make my own laundry soap, and if you're not watching it, it's gonna boil over. And it's funny, because on my crock pot, I swear, every time I use it for liquid soap, it's like exactly when I walk away that it wants to boil over. So it just requires more babysitting than I want to put into it. And so yeah, I prefer cold process for those reasons. But hot process is also a great soap. But when I do the rebatch soaps, they don't boil over. So I don't have that problem. But a hot process soap can boil over if you use a lot of liquids. And then the liquid soap, it seems like it goes through a pretty quick gel phase where it gels and wants to boil over, and then when I add the borax and the washing soda solution to it, then I have to watch it again. So it just seems like too much babysitting for that. But these, I can get them done quick. I can fill up molds. I'm not limited by batch size, so it's kind of like less hands-on work, I guess. That's just my take on it. Some people like hot process and they only want to do hot process, and they have like 20 crock pots, and they're willing to just stay there with them and watch them all and get them all done at the same time. But for me, I don't want to have that many crock pots, and I don't want to stay there looking at them, and I don't really want to, I just don't want to do it. So everyone has their niche. So, you know, this is mine. All right. Well, I guess that's it for today. And then I'm done. I have to go get all this stuff cleaned, and then I'm going to do some reading. So, bye-bye.